Chinese military might revealed in U.S. leaked documents. China's AI chatbots set to align with the ruling Communist Party line. China property giant Sunac sinks in Hong Kong, losing over half market value after suspension lifted. China and the story of disastrous lab blunder in 2019. The news, India will become the world's most populous country, tops China's hot search list.
The recent leak of hundreds of U.S. intel documents has included the revelation that China has advanced its military strength to a worrying extent. According to the Washington Post, the Joint Chiefs of Staff Intelligence Directorate learned that the Chinese military on February 25th successfully tested a new hypersonic missile with an intermediate range called the DF-27. A top-secret report assessed that the DF-27 could fly beyond the second island chain, a series of islands that form a strategic line of defense for the U.S. in the Pacific Ocean. The DF-27 also has a hypersonic glide capability, which means it can maneuver to avoid U.S. and Allied missile defenses. The leaked document claims that the DF-27 missile flew 2,100 kilometers, or 1,300 miles, in 12 minutes. However, a 2021 Defense Department report found that it has a range of 3,000 to 5,000 miles, which means it can strike any target in East or Southeast Asia, and large parts of the Pacific, including Guam. The report also said that the Chinese army deployed versions of the new missile that could attack land targets and ships last year. The Washington Post noted that Beijing could find this ability useful in invading Taiwan. It would be more difficult and costly for allies to defend Taiwan if American ships could be blocked, and U.S. forces in Asia could be targeted easily. The leaked documents also revealed that China has recently used its new helicopter-carrying assault ship in an extended deployment for the first time. This ship could also be used to transport troops and equipment for an invasion of Taiwan. Hans Christensen, director of the FAS Nuclear Information Project, judged that DF-27 could carry nuclear or conventional warheads, making it both strategic and tactical. He told the publication, "The Chinese have left their previous philosophy of a minimum nuclear deterrent, and they have determined both in terms of numbers and in terms of types of systems they need more stuff. The information does not mean the US and its allies should enter the race to amass nuclear missile silos with China. Instead, the Washington Post suggested focusing on neutralizing the new threat and enhancing the ability to safeguard assets." The news agency noted that the Defense Department had not verified the content of the leaked information.
China has released a set of draft regulations that will force chatbots created by its tech firms to adhere to the Chinese Communist Party CCP line. On April 11th, China's Cyberspace Administration, CAC, the nation's internet watchdog, launched a one-month public consultation on drafted rules, saying that the content produced by generative artificial intelligence should embody the core values of socialism. CAC said terms commonly used to target public dissent and criticism of the CCP must not contain subversion of state power, the overthrow of the socialist system, incitement to split the country, undermine national unity, promote terrorism or extremism. According to the proposed regulations, which the government hopes to have in place by the end of this year, content that may disrupt economic and social order is also prohibited. According to sources, regulators have urged big tech companies not to make the Microsoft-backed artificial intelligence chatbot ChatGPT available to the general public. As a result, Chinese tech giants are rushing to launch their own AI chatbots. The rules represent official concerns about any technology that can create content without the prior approval of CCP censors. The CCP says programmers and companies will be held responsible for any subversive output. The newly drafted regulations have attracted many public comments. Australia-based computer scientist Zhang Xiaogang said the regulation of chatbots would probably end innovation in the field. Zhang reckoned, "A dictatorial regime will always try to control everything, but this is a ridiculous approach." He added, "Restricting such things is tantamount to restricting AI itself, which will cause China's AI to fall behind the rest of the world." Veteran economist Li Hongxing said the new regulations demonstrate that if the CCP wants to maintain power long-term, it will need to keep tightening controls on public speech. Media commentator Wang Jian said, "The Chinese Communist Party's core value is to stay in power. To do this, it has two tools at its disposal, the gun and the pen. And the pen is where ideology comes in." Wang added, "The Communist Party would prefer not to allow an industry to develop if it could threaten its ideological control."
Chinese real estate giant Sunac lost more than half its market value on April 13th, after it was allowed to resume trading following over a year of suspension, as the firm underwent a debt restructuring plan. Sunac's shares plummeted nearly 60% on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, to their lowest since January 2012, erasing $1.8 billion from its market value. The developer posted its 2021 to 22 annual results to meet the Hong Kong Stock Exchange's requirements for resuming trading on the exchange. Stephen Leung, a sales director at UOB Kay Hian, told Reuters the stock was catching up with the decline in the property sector during the year of suspension. He added, "It's a good sign that the company could resume trading, as it suggested that the company is able to meet the required criteria for a trading resumption." According to the South China Morning Post, Sunac is the fourth distressed Chinese real estate developer to resume trading in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. At least 20 other companies, including China Evergrande, the world's most indebted firm with over $300 billion of liabilities, are still suspended and might face delisting risk. Sunac is among many Chinese real estate developers that defaulted last year, as the property market faced a debt crisis. Many real estate developers have struggled to sell their new homes, as the Chinese property market crisis has been ongoing for the last 2 years. Beijing started offering some policies to support the market last year. Last month, Sunac said in its filing that it had reached a deal with an ad hoc group of offshore creditors about the debt restructuring plan. The plan includes exchanging $1 billion of offshore debt for 9-year convertible bonds. Chinese financial magazine Caixin reported in December that Chinese property developers are under tremendous pressure to pay the due debt of $141 billion of onshore and offshore bonds by the end of 2023. China reported a lab spillover disaster 4 years ago, resulting from safety malpractices, and it was not COVID-19. According to the Wall Street Journal, it happened at the Lanzhou biopharmaceutical plant in Lanzhou, the capital of China's northwestern province, Gansu. The plant manufactures vaccines against brucellosis, a livestock disease that can infect humans. The manufacturing process involves fermenting live microbes and then using chemicals to destroy them at the final stage. But in July 2019, the plant somehow used an expired chemical that caused the waste treatment system to fail. As a result, many of the bacteria cells remained alive. Lab workers were oblivious to the faulty system. As a result, millions of airborne microbes found their way to the surrounding neighborhoods through the lab's exhaust pipes, contaminating residential buildings and a nearby veterinary school. The leak was undetected for a month. By then, an estimated 10,000 residents were exposed, and hundreds had fallen ill. A report released in 2022 said it was the most significant laboratory accident in the history of infectious diseases. Students in the veterinary school began to exhibit unexplained symptoms, such as sore joints, fever, and unusual tiredness. Even the research wing's lab mice got sick, and the female ones delivered dead babies. Local officials initially blamed exposure to infected animals inside the school, but then residents in the close-by apartment complex also fell ill. According to the Wall Street Journal, in December of that year, locals were offered brucellosis testing free of charge, and the scope of the testing zone quickly spread through to households that resided miles downwind from the plant. The 2022 report, released in the journal Clinical Infectious Diseases, found that out of almost 70,000 people tested, more than 10,000 were seropositive, meaning their immune systems had made antibodies, because enough of the bacteria that cause brucellosis had entered their lungs. The data is derived from the local health agency, which gave a significantly higher number than that reported by state-sponsored outlets. Experts estimated that the number of symptomatic patients could reach the hundreds. Li Xiao, a 39-year-old resident, told the Wall Street Journal, "I suffered from severe back pain, sweating, sleepiness, and swelling. I didn't know the reason at the time. Li was later hospitalized for months and prescribed various antibiotics. However, even a year later, he still suffered the after effects of brucellosis. He said that after months of treatment, he joined a local support group initiated by neighbors with similar brucellosis experiences. He said the group had more than 400 people. But he added, "As far as I know, almost every household in our community has infected patients." The Wall Street Journal noted that the case is just one more example of China's biotechnology ambition being hamstrung by unprofessionalism. The Chinese Communist Party spares no expense to advance the sector, but the rush for quick results has left ample room for flaws. Philip Zelikow, who is heading a U.S. commission to investigate the COVID pandemic, told the outlet that intense political and economic strain had worsened the matter of poor standards and dangerous working conditions for Chinese scientists. He said, "Biosafety culture and practices struggled to keep up with racing biotech skills and ambitions."
On April 11th, the news India will become the world's most populous country climbed to the top of China's hot search list. Some analysts point out India's rapid population growth will enhance its international standing, especially since India is the world's fifth largest economy and also the fastest growing one. As China's NetEase reported, the United Nations (UN) expects from mid to late April this year, it will announce India's replacement of China as the world's most populous country with 1.41 billion people. This will open a new chapter for India and also bring great pressure on China. Since 1950, when the UN first conducted the census, China has always been the most populous country in the world. Not long ago, experts still predicted India would not be able to overtake China until the end of this century. However, as China's birth rate continues to decline, that time will come sooner than expected. Over the past 30 years, India has had a younger population, a higher birth rate, and a falling infant mortality rate. Dudley Poston, emeritus professor of sociology at Texas A&M University, said each year India has more babies than any other country, while China and many European countries have more deaths than births. Experts believe the population growth may have a positive effect on the economy. In India, it means a growing workforce will stimulate economic growth. Toshiko Kaneda, technical director and demographic researcher at Population Reference Bureau, said when a country's birth rate hits low levels, it's often difficult for population growth rates to recover, even if the government conducts new birth-encouraging policies. China's National Bureau of Statistics officially announced China's 2022 population data on January 17th this year, showing China's population has decreased for the first time in 60 years. Some analysts believe this marks a negative population growth era of China. According to the report, China's number of births in 2022 was 9.56 million, while the number of deaths was 10.41 million, down 850,000 compared to the end of last year, showing this country is facing an unprecedented population crisis. The issue has sparked heated discussions on the Chinese internet, with Vision Times citing a netizen commenting as follows: "Actually, I don't pay much attention to India's population. What I'm really worried about is the assertion of statistics expert Huang Wenjiang. He said China's birth population may only account for 2% of the world's population in 2100. As you know, China's population still accounted for more than a third, 33% of the world's population in 1820. This means in the next generation, China's proportions of population will be halved compared to the global population. After 20 to 30 years, China's birth population will fall by 2 to 3% of the world's total. But it doesn't mean it will stop at 2%, because there are currently not many young people wanting to have children. The future birth population may fall by 1% of the world. Over the last 200 years, our population ratio has dropped from 1/3 of the world to 1/30th, and we have no more strength to climb up. This is the scariest thing."